Ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. Season 1, 4,881 rank. What can go wrong in Season 2? Yes, I'm FPL Dean and I'm back for another season of FPL. Yes, this is my first pre-season video. The reason why is because I wanted to make an ultimate pre-season guide. You won't get any early drafts from me in this thing because that is just stupid when the game hasn't even launched. I've seen lots of videos with people saying that João Pedro is going to be a midfielder. Honestly, pull your heads in. There's no way that's happening. I'm not going to be sitting here feeding you any rubbish that potentially is going to be wrong when the game actually does launch. Now, with that being said, well done to FPL CON. He gets his shirt on the thing with his overall rank of 422 for winning the mini league last season. And this season, we've got the new football shirt that is on offer for the person that wins the mini league. So I'll be sending one of these out and you'll get your name printed on the back with whatever number you want. So make sure you do sign up to the league when I open the league when the game launches. That's going to be the team selection video as well, so keep your eyes out for that. We also have the card making its comeback. It will be having its own team this year. We'll be looking into that a little bit further on down the line. With that being said, you guys know what to do. Smash a like on the videos. Leave me a comment. Tell me what your plans are for the preseason. What players are you interested in, etc., etc. And make sure you subscribe as well, because honestly, we know that this channel is going to be the ultimate deadline stream. It's not going to be just about FPL and football. It's going to be about entertainment. Anyone that joined me last season will know the deadline streams are not boring and I answer everyone's questions. So make sure you join me for them when they start as well. And with that being said, let's get into it. Here we are, the preseason questions that we actually need answering. So the transfers in and out of teams and how that impacts teams and players and their roles. So for example, we've seen João Pedro move from Brighton to Chelsea. Now he was the Brighton penalty taker when he was on the field. He's moved to Chelsea. He's no longer the penalty taker on the field. That is still going to be Cole Palmer. I can almost put my money and my house on it. Now, what does that mean though? That means the Brighton penalty taker role is now up for grabs. So these are the things you need to be paying attention to. So lots of people were wondering about whether Isak was going to move. That doesn't look like it's going to happen anymore. Looks like a TK is going there instead. Obviously, we saw last season in terms of like players coming in and out as well. We've also seen in the Club World Cup, if you watch Man City, that now Erling Haaland is no longer immune from Pep Roulette. So that's also something to take into account. So what these players coming in and coming out of, another classic example is Brian Mbeumo. Now, United just had a third bid put in. We don't know if Brentford have accepted it yet, but it's highly likely that they will. That means that when Mbeumo leaves Brentford, he's going to be losing those penalties because Bruno Fernandes is on penalties at Man United. And then maybe Wissa stays and he's on penalties instead, making him a better asset. All these things are probably going in, which is why FPL probably hasn't launched, because of the fact that they don't know where these key players are going to go. And with their outdated pricing structure, they won't be able to change the prices of players that move. So if Mbeumo moved, all of a sudden, he doesn't become as popular an asset because he's not on penalties, which means potentially he should be priced lower than if he stayed at Brentford, where he should probably be priced higher. So again, all these things come into account. Obviously, new players come in. We got Barry coming into Everton. Surely he goes on to penalties instead of Ndiaye. He's a centre forward after all. So all these things have to be taken into account. Next thing, to punt or not on teams of European commitments and potential rotation risks. Now, we saw the last time Newcastle were in the Champions League that they were no good. Their league form completely dived off a cliff, and I think they ended up finishing like 7th or 8th. I could be wrong, but it wasn't flash. Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, I don't remember the last time either of them were in Europe, probably 50 years ago. I don't know. Are their squads capable of dealing with European commitments plus the Premier League? I would expect to drop off there as well. So again, these are things that you need to be taken into mind. Then obviously you've got Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, all on the other end of the spectrum. They've got so many players. Are they really going to field a full-strength team against the likes of Burnley if they've got a Champions League midweek? That's the other thing you've got to take into account. I actually think it's a smart play to play most players that aren't in Europe, which is why I think Man United could be a very good source for FPL players this season. How much do you read into preseason form? Now, I would argue probably not too much. Some teams only have three pre-season games. Brentford, Brighton, I think they've only got 3 each. I also remember when Louis van Gaal first joined Man United and they beat all these big European teams, won the pre-season cup, and I actually thought they were going to win the league. We looked that good. 5 games in, it just fell apart. So pre-season form, I don't know if there's too much you can actually read into it, other than the fact that, I wouldn't be sitting there thinking it's going to be absolutely fantastic at all. Which formation are you going to play? Now, last season, I think I only played a 4-4-2 once, and that was in blank game week 29 when Cole Palmer somehow didn't feature, and I ended up playing a 4-4-2, and he dropped to the bench. I played a 3-4-3 almost 65% of the season. I reckon the other 35 was a 3-5-2. Again, this is important to understand what you're going to do early on, so that way you can factor your budget enablers into positions where they're probably not going to be coming on. So if you're going to be playing 3-5-2, you can get a cheap forward. If you're going to be playing 3-4-3, you can get that cheap midfielder. Again, it also means how many premium assets are you going to want? Are you going to want to spend up money on defense? Last season, it made no sense. If they don't change the bonus point system, I don't think it makes any sense paying up for any more than 5 million rated defenders yet again. Also, how much do fixtures play a part versus form? Now, realistically, I think if you're a form player and you're on fire, you just go with the form. But sometimes, and last season, classic case in point, when the card said to pick Phil Foden for that 5-week stretch and he went absolutely bananas. FYI, the person who won FPL also went for Phil Foden for that 5 weeks as well, which is amazing. So again, maybe that's something you need to factor in. Then the last question you need to answer for preseason is, do you go with Salah? Do you go with Haaland? Do you go with both, or do you go with neither? Now, Salah normally starts a season like a house on fire on opening day. That has to be taken into consideration. But the fixtures for Liverpool aren't overly flashed at the start of the year. And Haaland, now that Pep Roulette seems to include him in the Pep Roulette schemes, I don't know if he's that essential. And again, they're going to be taking up so much budget. I think you want players that are just going to be absolutely nailed that you don't have to be stressing about. The teams relegated to the Championship. Now, we unfortunately had to say goodbye to the Vardy party and Liam Delap at Ipswich and Southampton last season. Now, will they be back next season? Who knows? Teams that go up and down, I think Leicester are quite often a bit of a yo-yo club, so I wouldn't be surprised that they come back. But again, they are looking like they might be given some problems in the Championship in terms of points deductions for PSR and all that rubbish. The teams promoted, though, are Leeds United. Being a Man United fan, I'm glad that they're back, so we can hopefully beat them. Burnley have obviously come back as well, and Sunderland. So I've got the Tyneside derbies back on the agenda, Newcastle versus Sunderland. That'll be great to watch as well. Realistically, I think Leeds are the most or the best equipped to potentially stay up this season. Burnley and Sunderland, I really can't see it, honestly. I really want to make cases for them. Yes, they've signed a lot of players, but Sunderland sold their 2 best players. Bellingham to Borussia Dortmund and what's his name to Brighton. So again, I'm not sure whether they are teams that you really want to be investing in. And I think they're probably teams, a bit like last season's bottom 3, that you want to target week to week. Teams have good opening fixtures, though. Now, this is where it gets important. And as I said before, it's all about those teams not in Europe. So as we can see here, Brentford, Burnley, West Ham, not in Europe. I actually think Jarrod Bowen, Wan-Bissaka, Wissa at the moment, unless he gets sold. Kelleher has been signed by Brentford as well. All these players look really good assets because of the fact they're going to be playing 90 minutes every single week. There's no European commitments, there's no fear of rotation. Aston Villa and Crystal Palace, though, first 5 weeks might be all right because there's no European football potentially for either of those 2 teams and those ones. But again, it is one of those quandaries where you just have to sit there and weigh up the pros and cons. Now, Man United start like an absolute house on fire. They've got Arsenal at home, Man City away, and Chelsea at home in the first 5 games. I mean, that's unbelievably bad luck for Amarin, but it's also probably good. Man United played so much better against the good teams last year than the bad ones, so I'm not overly too concerned about that, if I'm being brutally honest as a fan. I'd rather start with the top teams. You've got to play everyone again twice anyway during the season, so why not start with the big ones? Arsenal, they've got a really hard start as well. They've got Liverpool, Man United, and Man City. I mean, that's not easy. Bournemouth obviously have Liverpool and a few other teams in there. Everton, ditto. And then Liverpool obviously have Bournemouth to begin with, which everyone will say, oh, that's a great opening day fixture. Yes, it is. But then they've got Newcastle away and Arsenal at home. I don't think you want any Liverpool players the first 3 weeks. Maybe outside Salah for the opening day fixture. If I'm being brutally honest, those are my early thoughts. It's not good fixtures for some of the big hitters where a lot of the popular fantasy assets actually are. So teams in the Champions League, now this is where it's interesting, and I think this is something you need to pre-factor into your thing. There is a record 6 English Premier League teams in the Champions League this season. It's insane. Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool, Chelsea, Newcastle United, and Man City are all in the Champions League. Now, I expect that Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool have the squads to deal with it, no problem at all. The only problem is, as I said before, rotation risks in the Premier League games if they've got a big European game. And that's going to be problematic for a lot of those choices. Now, in terms of Spurs and Newcastle, they just don't have the squads, I think, to deal with them. We saw last season what happened with Spurs in the Europa League. They fell apart in the league and their squad couldn't cope with it. Newcastle need to sign a boatload more extra players. Otherwise, they're going to be in the exact same case. Like, they're not going to... I don't think their squad's capable of dealing with it. Isaac needs another forward because realistically, there's no way he's going to be able to play that amount of games. He struggled to play all the games last season. He was just in the league and the domestic cup competitions. So again, these are things you have to take into consideration. Teams in the Europa and Conference Leagues. Now, at the moment, Crystal Palace have been relegated to the Conference League, but they're challenging that at the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest. As I said, these squads here, again, they're not massive squads. Are they going to go all right in Europe as well as competing in the Premier League? That is the key question. And for that reason, you have to be planning around those European commitments. And I think some of these assets that would look really good on paper may not be as appealing this season with all those European commitments and extra games piled in. So the key transfers that have happened already so far. So for Arsenal, and I haven't got every club here, so bear with me. I think these are the ones most fantasy relevant. Now, some people might say kudos to Tottenham is relevant and other players like this, but at the moment, I don't think it's that relevant. I've got no interest really in buying kudos, even though he does feature in the later section of this video. Arsenal, Norgard, Zubimendi, and Kepa have signed there. Man City obviously had a very busy window prior to the Club World Cup. Cherki, Aitnori, Bertinelli, and Reindeers have come in there. For Chelsea, they've been even more busy. They've got Delap, Sarr, Gittins, Pedro, Usago, and Estavio. And Estavio looked really good for Palmeiras at the Club World Cup, so that was interesting. Liverpool also been really busy. They've got Mamadashvili, Pesky, Woodman, all goalkeepers, and then they've made the big signings. Kirkes at left back, Frimpong at right back, and Wirtz, who looks really incredible. Nottingham Forest, Jesus, Yaya, and Cunha. Now, Jesus is really important because that's probably going to affect Chris Wood. Man United have obviously signed Cunha and Leon, but that could well become Brian and Buemo very, very shortly. Brentford have obviously signed Coyote, Donovan, Milambo, and Kelleher. And Brighton have also been super busy with the Cooper, Bosgali, Ramning, Coppola, Costellas, De Jong, and Watson. So this is only just 8 clubs I picked. I think the 8 most relevant clubs in terms of transfers. There's obviously been other transfers that are going to be relevant, and I'll be covering them in later videos. But for now, those are the ones I think you need to be most aware of. So my pre-season players, the players that I'm hot on. Now, I will apologise to all Wolves fans, all Leeds fans, all Burnley fans, and all Sunderland fans. There are no players from any of your teams on this list. I've gone through the other 16 clubs. Realistically, I'm not picking any players for them. The only player I'd be even tempted to pick from any of those 4 clubs at this moment in time is Strand Larsen from Wolves. And that's it, because I think he's going to be on penalties. I think he's going to be a really good asset. But I wasn't putting up a club with just one player. So for that reason, he's not on. So for Bournemouth, obviously, it's the 3 players that are still most likely still going to be at the club by the end of the window. And Valinson's a great looking forward. Clivert's obviously on penalties. And Semenyo, he did have that attacking output last year. I expect them all to be fairly evenly priced again and quite tempting to buy. Then we look at Spurs, and it's hard to recommend Spurs players after last season. But Solanke, if Frank employs a similar system as to what he did at Brentford, makes a lot of sense. Then we've got Kudos, who could be interesting. Maybe he's going to improve with the move. Brendan Johnson, I think, is still a fantastic option there as well, even though Gibbs White potentially might join Spurs. And I don't know what that means for those 3, but it means probably Brendan Johnson might be dropping down the pecking order. I'm not sure. Brighton, we've obviously got Minte, who I think is going to be fantastic, Matoma, and at the moment I've got Estupiñán, but I think potentially Estupiñán might leave, and that could be Decopia, or however you say his name. He might be joining there instead. In terms of Fulham, It's got to be Robinson. He looks really good. Smith Rowe, I think, should improve with his second year being there. And obviously Muniz, a year older, hopefully he can kick on. I mean, Raul Jimenez is an extra year older, which makes you think he could be a really good asset moving forward. When we look at Arsenal, it's got to be Raya. I mean, he's the cheapest way into normally the Arsenal defence, which makes sense when their fixtures do open up. Saka should be a really good option, even though if Gyökeres does sign, I would expect Gyökeres to probably be a better asset than Saka, because I would imagine he's going to take the penalties. And then Lewis Skelly. I think surely he gets reclassified to a defender. If he does, I think he's going to be significantly cheaper than the rest of the defenders, and he also has that attacking output. So I think he could be a really good option. Everton, obviously Pickford. I actually think that Pickford may well be my starting goalkeeper. He's just so good at racking up the points year on year. I've then got Barry. So that is Barry in a Villarreal shirt. It's obviously, we're waiting for FPL to open, so I've had to improvise with some of these graphics. And then we've got O'Brien. Now, O'Brien was really good when he came into the Everton lineup. He was significantly cheaper, and I think he's going to be really good again this season. Newcastle, obviously, it's the three big boys, Isaac, Gordon, and Lewis Hall. Lewis Hall should be back, I think, in time for the start of the season. We'll have to keep our words out for that, but he is definitely someone that is of significant interest that I think a lot of people have just forgotten about. He's probably going to rise to about 5 million, maybe 5.5, but he's definitely going to be a fairly popular asset if he is back fit and available. In Liverpool, we've got a lot of new signings here. So we've got Mo Salah. I think he always has to make the cut here. Then we've got Wirtz and Frimpong. I think Frimpong surely will be nailed in front of Robertson. You don't spend that money and then just put him on the bench and Bradley starts. And I don't think Bradley did enough at the end of last season to warrant him starting instead of Frimpong at the start of the year. Moving on to Aston Villa, and we have Ollie Watkins, who potentially may end up moving. We don't know at the moment, but there is a strong chance he could go to Man United. Who knows? They need a forward. That would be interesting. Morgan Rogers, I think, is still going to be a brilliant option for Aston Villa, particularly with their opening fixtures. And Marston, I think an extra year in, he is surely going to replace Dean in that starting lineup, and he is very attacking, and I think that he'll be a very good asset as well that not many people probably are thinking about at the moment. Man City, I think it has to be Phil Foden. Phil Foden, when he did play at the Club World Cup, even though he started on the bench quite a bit, was unbelievably good. And surely he gets back into Phil Foden mode this season. He's definitely a player of interest. Aït-Nouri does not make the cut, and we'll get onto that in a minute. Oscar Marmoush, I think he's going to be really good. He may well get reclassified to a midfielder because realistically, other than the fact when Haaland was out injured, he didn't really actually play up front. Haaland obviously is still an option as well that you need to be aware of. Now, when we look at Chelsea, these three players, I think, are the three no-brainers. Kukurea looks amazing. I think he's almost 100% locked for my Game Week 1 team, provided he doesn't get injured. Cole Palmer is post the Club World Cup. The games I watched at Cole Palmer, and I didn't watch that many Club World Cup games, he was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It looked like he was back to what Cole Palmer we knew and loved from the first half of last season. And Enzo Fernandez is also a really good option. I expect him to be significantly cheaper than Palmer. And again, he just loves getting forward, and he seems to be like one of those players that just plays every single game. Crystal Palace, obviously we've got Munoz, Eze, and Henderson. I think those are the three best assets at Palace. I just think that they're all nailed, and they all play 90 minutes when they're fit and available, and I think they'll be good. I think Dean Henderson will be really good in goal again this season. Then we've got Nottingham Forest. We've got Sells, Milenkovic, and Nico Williams. Now, they've already sold Elanga. Well, they're about to Newcastle. Morgan Gibbs-White might leave. Wood has been given competition with Jesus. I expect Jesus to become the starting striker by the end of the season as well. Wood is 33 after all. He had his worldy season. He's probably going to slinger into the background now. But those are the three players I'm most interested in there. I think Nottingham Forest defensive data should be still relatively good. Their attacking data wasn't good last season, so I think it makes sense to target their defence. For Man United, it's definitely got to be Bruno and Cunha at the moment. Now, the third player would be Brian Mbeumo if he had already signed, but we don't know at this time of this recording of this video he has not. Dorgu, though, is a very interesting prospect. Could come in very cheap as a defender. Playing in that left wing-back role, he could be someone that scores a lot of points for you, that just gets the job done. Then obviously at Brentford, we still have Wissa and Mbeumo and Kelleher. Kelleher is going to be a great option. I think he'll be 4.5 million goalkeeper, a bit like what Fleckham was last season. I think that'll be really good, but obviously the other two might not even be there by the end of the window. Like Mbeumo might be above. Wissa could be anywhere else. Then it's just a matter of waiting and seeing. Then West Ham, I've got Bowen, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and Areola. I think, again, Areola should be a pretty cheap goalkeeper, and I think he's going to be nailed. Now that Fabianski's left, the number one slot really is his. You don't have to worry too much about it. And Bowen's going to be a great option with their fixtures to start the season. So the players you need to wait and see on this season, and these are the ones that I think need some observation during preseason and probably to avoid the start of the season just to see how they adapt. So Mateta started the season and had a really good middle part of the season last year, and then after that injury just really dived off a cliff. And I'm not convinced he's a good asset until I see what he's like in preseason. I want to see that he's actually playing 90 minutes again rather than the 60, 70 rubbish that finished the last season. Kirkes, there's Robertson, there's Tomiskas, and then there's Kirkes. Now, you would expect Kirkes to be starting, but that's no guarantee. And we know that Slot likes a little bit of roulette, particularly at the left-back position. So for that reason, I think he's a wait and see. Guaviol potentially will be playing centre-back rather than left-back, and Aït-Nouri's also here. Now, the reason why they're both here is because there's Pep Roulette that you've got to deal with. And I think, quite honestly, we could see them both in that left-back position. Also, Man City still don't look that good defensively. In the Club World Cup, if you can see that many goals to Al Hilal and get kicked out, yeah, I'm not sold on the defence. And I don't know if they're going to put up enough attacking numbers to make them worthwhile options. I need to see more. Shirky as well for Man City. Again, I don't know how he's going to fit in. He looks like a great player. How he fits into the Pep system and whether he fits into Pep Roulette is going to be something else. Strand Larsen, I want to see if Wolves can actually give some attacking creativity around him, because at the moment I'm kind of concerned without Cunha where are the chances coming from for him to put away. Amad Diallo, if Brighton Buemo signs, you would expect Amad to potentially be playing right wing back. And I'm not sure what that does for his numbers. He was actually pretty good there in the Premier League last season and still got goals and assists from that position. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. He's a wait and see, but I think he will come in very cheap again. And then Kai Havertz. If they sign Gyökeres, where the hell is Kai Havertz going to be playing for Arsenal? And for that reason, he's also a player that you need to be waiting and seeing on before making any decisions on. So the Club World Cup, what did we learn from that? So we had two English Premier League teams go there. One, Chelsea, and the other, Man City. Now, they were both in the same side of the draw. Chelsea won it, though. They smashed PSG in the final. They actually played a really good campaign. I think they only lost one game in the group stage, and that was it. They were just brilliant. They were really good. They emphatically just demolished PSG in the final, and I gave them absolutely no chance there. The new signings seemed to fit in perfectly. Like we saw Liam Delap lead the line beautifully, and then obviously he got suspended, and then João Pedro came in and absolutely he scored 2 worldies on his debut and then scored in the final as well. There's not much more you can ask for other than that. It probably means that Nicholas Jackson, I think they'll probably sell him. If I'm being brutally honest, I think they'll sell him. I can't see how he gets in front of those two. Maybe Maresca wants to keep him as a third option, but Chelsea looks scarily good. If they play like that in the Premier League, they're winning the league. I thought they were that good. And the defensive midfield is just so good. It looks like if Sanchez plays like he did against PSG, then they're a real chance of doing something. However, I don't know if he can replicate that week on week. Manchester City, though, they started the tournament well. Their group stage was exceptionally good. But unfortunately, we saw everything that's wrong with Manchester City. We saw Pep Roulette. We saw almost different lineups per game, like completely different 11s. We saw Haaland being rotated. I don't know what this means for FPL, if I'm being really honest. If Haaland is now part of Pep Roulette, he's not worth 13 mil. He's worth 10 at best. And they were knocked out by Al Hilal. I mean, they got knocked out by a Saudi Arabian team. How hilarious is that? They conceded 3 goals to that team. Well, it just goes to show that Man City have not fixed their defensive issues at all. Even with all these new signings, I'm not sold on them as a team at all. And Pep Roulette is still something that you need to be thinking about. And sometimes it's better just to avoid Man City players in general just because of that. So things to do when the game launches. Now, the first thing is you need to check for rule changes to scoring and the bonus point system. Last season, obviously, the bonus point system absolutely nerfed defenders and goalkeepers to the point where Milinkovic scored a goal and got an assist and didn't get any bonus points in a game last season because he conceded 3 or 4 goals, whatever it was. That has to change. You have to make it more enticing to go with more expensive defenders and give them a chance of scoring points. Maybe it's you increase the clean sheet points. I'm not sure. FPL need to be looking at this though, because it was too hard for defenders and goalkeepers to get bonus points last season, and that's not good enough. Even when they kept clean sheets, if the other player, like Chris Wood last season, 1-0 Forest, Chris Wood scored the goal, he got 3 bonus points. Literally did nothing all game, scored the goal and got 3 bonus. That has to change. Will they change it? I'm not sure, but you need to be checking for those kind of things. Also, you need to be checking for player prices and positional changes. Now, there will be a bunch of players that change positions, etc., etc. João Pedro's not going to be one. I'll eat my hat if he is a player that goes into midfield. I don't know why I keep seeing videos of him in midfield. I can't take him seriously at all. Prices are also going to be, most of the time, the prices don't change a hell of a lot unless someone's had a worldy season. So Morgan Rogers probably isn't going to be 5 million again to start this season. He's probably going to be more like 7. So that's going to be a significant jump. Those are the kind of things you need to be looking for. Other players may not see any change at all. Salah, we might see some increase. Haaland, we might see some decrease. These are the things you've got to check out. You also then need to see what chips are available and when they're available to play. Now, we know that AI is coming. Microsoft Copilot is coming in about halfway through the season. Now, does that mean there's going to be another mystery chip and it's going to be based on AI? I don't know how it's going to work, but I love it. I'm here for it. Bring it in. FPL needs disrupting. Too many of the big content creators didn't like the AM chip. You know what that means, FPL? They need to double down, bring it back, make it a weekly chip. Or as someone said on a comment on X to one of my posts, bring it in so you have to play the manager on all 20 Premier League managers from like game week 18. And it doesn't count as a chip, but you've got to play it and pick one, and you get the table bonus, etc. So I think that'd be brilliant. I'd love to see it in all time long. I'm really hoping it makes a comeback this season. And I honestly think they should increase the table bonus for teams that are like 10 places below rather than 5 places below. That would encourage you to bet and just gamble on like the relegation teams. If you were super chasing points and you had a horrible start to the season, I think that'd be really cool. Then the next thing you need to do is just start creating your own first draft. Don't be creating your drafts now. There's so much room for error and sitting there and go, oh, this draft looks really good. But then all of a sudden, oh, that player's not in that position. It makes no sense to make a draft right now as far as I'm concerned. And then you just got to add players to your watch list. Now, last season, I actually had Jacob Murphy in my starting game week 1 team. Unfortunately, I went too early on him, but the idea and thinking behind it was great because he became good later in the season. It just took a few game weeks to get there. And then lastly, remember, FPL is a game of chance. Back your own decisions. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to other content creators. Do what you think's right, because quite often it will actually be the correct thing. And if you're undecided, get yourself your own card. Make a yes and a no on both sides, whatever it is. Flick it, and if it lands on that, just roll with it, because literally FPL is a game of chance, and it is all about having fun. So that brings me to the end of my preseason ultimate guide. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully it's whet your appetite for FPL when it does launch. I am no miraculous worker. I do not know when the game is going to launch, and I don't really care because it's going to be fun when it does launch. All I hope is it does happen soon, because I'm sick of seeing drafts up with João Pedro in midfield. For the love of me, stop doing it for everyone out there doing it. It's not going to happen. Chelsea played him up front in the Club World Cup. There's no way he's in the midfield. I'll eat my hat if he is. With that being said, if you've enjoyed today's video, smash a like on the video. Leave me a comment with what you're looking forward to in FPL. Do you think there'll be a new mystery chip? What changes are you hoping to see happen? And before you go, make sure you smash subscribe. That's been me with my preseason guide, and I've been FPL D Unit. See you again soon.